Many Kiwis think that the only way to buy an investment property is to save up a big deposit and to put money away every single week, week after week. You scrimp and save, and then finally, 10 years later, you crack open the deposits and you buy the investment property. But what a lot of investors don't realize is that they already have the money that they need, but they've never heard of unicorn poo before. Now, bear with me here, because that is what some investors call the method I'm about to share with you in this video, and I guess that's how magical they feel it is. And it's been right under their nose all along. Now, in case you don't know me, I'm Ed, an economist and property investor here at Opus Partners. And in this video, I'm going to show you the investment strategy that nobody taught me in economics class, and a step-by-step guide on how to buy your next investment property much faster without needing to save up any money for a big deposit. But let's start with what most investors get wrong when they're saving up to buy a new property. See, a lot of Kiwis think that property investors have stacks of cash. They want to buy a 600k investment property and they need 120 to 180k deposit. So the investors start putting aside, let's call it $200 a week. And in 11 and a half years, they're going to have the deposit that they need to buy their first investment property. Except by that point, the 600k property could be worth over 900k. So that deposit you were diligently saving, it's actually not enough anymore. And seriously, 11 years is a long time to wait. And that's where that idea of unicorn poo comes in. Now, many Kiwis have silent wealth locked in their houses. And this is what we call usable equity. Now, I first learned about this when I was 25, sitting down at a property investment seminar, and it actually blew my mind. And it made me think, why don't we learn about this in school or an economics class at university? So here's how it works. If you own your home, it's probably gone up in value since you bought it, and you might already have paid off some of the mortgage. But here's what they don't tell you. You can use some of this wealth as the deposit for your first or your next investment property. And I'm not talking about cracking open your property piggy bank open by selling the house, moving somewhere cheaper and using the leftover money as your deposit. You don't need a hammer or a for sale sign. You just need a good mortgage broker. So what's going to happen is they're going to go to the bank and they're going to say, hey, look, we're not selling the house, but we've built up some wealth here. Can we borrow some money against this? And the bank might say, yep, we can do that. And you can use that money that the bank gives you as the deposit for your investment property. And this works because the bank will typically let you borrow up to 80% of the value of your own house. So let's say you've got $1 million house. Well, you can borrow up to $800,000 against it. But you've probably also got a mortgage, and that might be $500k. Well, that means that you can borrow the balance, up to $300,000 more against your home. And that can act as the deposit for your investment property. Now, we still need to talk about how you use that to buy the property, but before we get to that, if you want to see more of these how do you start investing type videos, do me a quick favor and hit the like button. That's how I know what videos you want to see more of. And honestly, it does help with the YouTube algorithm too. Subscribing, that also helps. We're over halfway to our goal of growing this community to 50,000 subscribers. And if you're already subscribed, you're going to know that if you've got your deposit ready and you want to buy this property for 600k, well, you could go to, let's call it ASB Bank, and they'll say, okay, we're going to lend you 80% of the money to buy this new build investment property. We're going to give you 480k. You just need to come up with that 120k deposit. And then you go, well, that's great because I've got 120k over here that another bank just lent me against my own house. And so you take that money, put it all together, you pay the seller for the house, and you've just bought a house without putting any of your own cash in. And that's why I call this the no cash needed method. Now, let's be really clear here. This isn't about making the house price actually cheaper, but this is about making an investment faster and more affordable, because thousands of Kiwis are walking around thinking that they're not ready to invest in property right now, but actually, maybe they could. So I was recently working and having a conversation with an investor. He was a 54-year-old pharmacist. And we were talking to them about investing in property, and they were really happy. They said, we've paid off our mortgage, so now we can finally invest in property. And I said to them, well, you didn't actually have to pay all of your mortgage off first before you started investing. You can still use that silent wealth in your house, that usable equity in your house, and buy an investment property, even if you have a mortgage. And I could see it in his eyes. He was recalculating the last 10 years of his life, because if he'd started investing 10 years ago, he would have made hundreds of thousands of dollars by now. Now, that silent source of wealth, that usable equity, had been sitting under his nose this whole time. But how do you tell whether you can actually do this? Well, the calculations are actually quite complex. It's not just about the deposit side, because you've still got to be able to afford both mortgages and the bank size. And that is the exact reason why I built this calculator, which can tell you in just 2 minutes whether you might be able to afford an investment property or not. So let's say we've got an Auckland couple, they're in their mid-40s, let's call them Barry and Belinda. They've owned their own home for 15 years, and let's say one of their kids are heading off to university, but they've still got one at home and they've got 2 cars. Now, Barry earns 80K, Belinda earns $100,000 a year, and they don't have any savings at the moment they could put towards that property. Now, they've owned their own home for a while, and it's worth $950,000. Their mortgage is worth $270,000, and that property is their own home. And based on the numbers they just put in, they might be able to afford an investment property just under $1.2 million. Now, you should try this yourself. I'll put the link down in the description, and you might actually be surprised, because that way you're not going to be walking around for the next decade thinking you can't invest when maybe you actually can. But does this mean you can actually invest in property with zero savings, no cash in the bank? Well, you still need about $5,000 to cover legal fees, evaluation, building inspection, all that sort of thing. Now, some investors, they actually do borrow that against their house too. But you need to at least be aware that buying a house costs more than just the cost or the price of the house itself. And the point I'm trying to get across in this video is that you might think that it's the deposit holding you back from buying an investment property. But actually, if you've owned a house for a while, you may already have what you need. While the house still costs the same, this can make it feel cheaper and more affordable to invest. So next time someone tells you you've got to save up $120K or $200K to invest in property, you can smile, because now you know the truth. All you need to do is unlock it. But if you do start buying property with a massive mortgage, you really do need to know about what can go wrong too, and how it could all blow up in your face. So it's great that we can buy a property with not much money, but this has some downsides too. So in this video, I'm going to show you why using a big mortgage could 5x your returns and make them much bigger, but it could also 5 times your losses. So click on that one now.